ourselves a landmark ruling from the tribunal tonight, a dangerous tackle, a 3-week suspension and everyone put on notice. So what does it mean for tackling in the game, not just at the tribunal, but for holding the ball and from the umpire's perspective? It's a great night to have Razor's Edge Ray Chamberlain. Welcome.
G'day guys, how are we?
Always a great night when you're here, Razor.
I enjoy it.
Good.
Let's rip into it. So let's start with the Curtis incident in isolation and broaden out from there.
Yeah, I mean, tackle from behind, never been more difficult. Obviously, we're all learning. The game's learning and evolving. And from an umpiring perspective, Jared, when you see a player run down an opponent from behind, what you're wanting to see from the player is the ability to roll his opponent in the tackle. That's the best way to avoid head knock, but also avoid the push in the back free kick. So from an umpiring perspective, that's what you're looking to see the player do.
Do you think the players are actually good at rolling, or it's rare that the roll happens?
No, I think they're fantastic. I think they're exceptionally well drilled. They're aware, so they're cognizant of what their requirements are. It is incredibly difficult. Like, it's so fast, they're so strong, and then you can't always control the movement of the opponent once you've made contact as well, and you've got to adjust in such a small period of time. So, one of the values of the umpiring group is to respect the game, and when we pull that apart, what that is essentially trying to have a level of empathy in particular and respect for those who are participating on the field. And I think this is a perfect example of where you look and go, it is hard.
You're not MRO, but do you think that's 3 weeks worthy?
I thought, based on other ones, that potentially there was a chance that they would let him go. And I'm referencing Bedford. But I also understand that concussion's such a significant issue. The outcome was what it was. So that's a point of difference. And so they've landed where they have.
He sits in amongst, as we said last night, there's some big hits in amongst all that. So it's incongruous for me that a tackle sits in amongst that group. Anyway, that's not going to change for now.
All right, so another rundown tackle, which was paid as in the back, which inflamed many. So this is Mullen on Mackay. How do we see this?
Well, Jared, I was watching this game, and as the tackle occurred, I thought he'll pay in the back here, but I yelled out, "You can ball that up." Right? So we talk about wanting to roll the opponent, and I feel like Mullen got to about 4 or 5 out of 10 in terms of executing a perfect roll. I think it sat in the margins where it didn't surprise me that push in the back was paid, because he does land on his number, but he also is in right at the death there trying to roll him. And I yelled out, "You can ball that up." but
no one heard you.
But I thought he was going to pay in the back. So I wasn't surprised with the ruling, but I've expressed what I thought.
Yeah, had Harry hit his head, O'Sheen Mullen might be playing for 3 weeks. But anyway, he looked like he tried to mitigate the amount of force he had in the back. That's the best I could say.
And I think it also helps that Harry's such a big bopper in comparison to Mullen, as opposed to the other two who are similar size.
Yep.
I think that impacts as well. Yeah.
All the frustrations in Jason Horne-Francis stemmed from one decision, so we thought we'd get you to cast your judgment here.
Yeah, this is really quite interesting. So in terms of tackling and holding the ball, once a decision's made right at the top of the tree as to what the umpire makes a call on, so is that high or not? Then from there, it unravels quickly. So high tackle, we used to pay all high tackle, Gary, in 2004. All high contact, pay free kick.
Even if you ducked.
Didn't matter, pay all high contact. But then what happens is, right, whether it was the Shuey shrug or the Joel roll, you can pick out the players who had certain ways about going about engaging the tackle to draw free kick. It was encouraging more high contact to occur. And so the game instructed its umpires, if the ball carrier, in this case it's Jason Horne-Francis, if they contribute to cause the high contact in any way, and the tackler shows a duty of care, it's not egregious, it's not a mad swinging arm, do not pay high contact, do not reward it. And so what happens here, whether you think this is right or wrong, the umpire clearly has observed that and gone, Horne-Francis has lowered, ducked, and that has caused the tackle to go high. It wasn't a swinging arm from Cherry, he just sort of had it hanging out there. And then the second tackle gets him, so now it's prior opportunity.
Yes.
And so now he's got to decide, did he schnicko it with the handball? Did he successfully handball it or not? He said he hasn't. and so he has to pay hold on the ball.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
The Wines high shot.
Yeah, so this is where a similar rule and similar interpretation, although I think I'm not as comfortable with this one from our umpire. I feel like Wines is in the act of gaining possession, has his head down more so than ducking, but the umpire has deemed that he ducked. So as a result of that, he's had a prior opportunity, Jared. Once you decide he's ducked, he's deemed to have had a prior opportunity. And so therefore he has to successfully or handball or kick. And if he doesn't, the umpire has to pay holding the ball. So it's that first decision at the top of the tree leads you to where we end up. If he says, no, that's a high tackle, he pays it, fine. But once he's decided he's ducked, we're in a different part of the laws of the game.
Yep. And then where the players make it difficult for the umpires around the staging aspect.
Yeah, and, we're talking about all these marginal elements, interpretation, subjectivity, and this is the game that the umpires are challenged with. And, Jared, to give context to this, and the high contact's not paid for the bump. It's the rowel right hand across the face. That's what he's paid high contact for, OK? And I don't think there's any argument with that per se. But, from the umpiring perspective, at the start of this season, Jared, 37% of the AFL umpiring list towed the line with 2 years or less AFL senior umpiring experience. And to give people at home context, I did a bit of homework, right? The Gold Coast Suns, they're a young list. They're not the youngest, but they'd be considered a young list. They have 6 players on their list who have got 2 years or less experience. And the AFL umpires have 13. I think that's worthwhile listening. We don't tip into young players. We don't abuse first and second year players, not to the degree to which I think there's just a blanket rule as to how we go about commenting on officiating. So, one of the questions was, do you have sympathy or empathy for the players in relation to what they've got to do on the field? And of course, yes, absolutely. I have empathy for everybody on the field. It's pretty tough.
Yep. Basically all been put on notice around the rundown tackle. Just how have you absorbed what's transpired tonight?
Yeah, it's a difficult one for sure, especially when it's a teammate, and Paul's been in such good form, so disappointed to lose him for the next 3 weeks. Personally think it's a bit harsh. It's from a player's perspective, not talking just because it's Paul, I think it's pretty hard to make those split-second decisions in that moment to show that duty of care. Like, obviously we want to stamp out concussion, and I feel bad for Josh, who unfortunately has to miss a week or 2 with concussion, but I think it is very hard in that moment to do something else.
Well,
yeah, it's a tough one. I think no matter what anyone's opinion on the matter is we all agree that we want to try and stamp out concussions, but in this one it is right on the line of we love the way Paul plays. I love watching him, the way he goes about it and how tough he is. But yeah, I guess with this one, you don't want him to lose any of that about his game at the same time. So it is a tough one.
So talk us through what happens from here. This is what I'm interested about. So this has just been handed down. Will you go into the club tomorrow? Will they sit you down as a group and say, right, like it or not, we think it's tough, you think it's tough, but this is what it is, and talk you through that, what you can do, what you can't do, what you are expected to be able to do in a tackle like that? How does that play out?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I'm not sure if the club will sit us down and say that. I think it kind of depends on what the case is. But
do you understand what you are expected to do now on the back of that or not?
Sort of. I think so. Like, you have to be now even more careful. Like, leading into this weekend, I wouldn't have known that. Like, I wouldn't know that you can't do that tackle. And I don't think Paul knew that, which is kind of the bad thing about this case, because now he's missing 3 weeks of football because of it.
Is the adjustment able to be made, Will? Like, can a player adjust during the season to that?
I think it's a lot easier to say it when you're looking at it in slow motion, and let alone changing in season. But even when you have all the education in the world, in that split second, he's a player that goes really tough for the player and for the ball, and yeah, it's pretty hard to change.